Welcome back to the Simply Aroma Consultant Training Series. I hope you've done the call to action homework and that you're ready to move on to this week's learning. We're going to start this week by talking about closing your party with your hosts. Now, I'm going to talk today about the concept of closing your parties the night of your parties. Now, I know that direct sellers just seem to be really committed to this idea of holding their parties open in order to allow their hosts to collect more orders and increase their sales average. And I know that seems like a pretty strong argument for that practice. I think by the end of the training today, though, you're going to see why it doesn't make a lot of sense. To begin with, I want you to think about who you hold your parties open for. And the answer is not the host. The answer is the guests who didn't bother to show up to support the host the night of her party. Now, in this day and age, it's really easy to see why that would be a challenge, because actually showing up at the party probably means that someone worked all day, got their kids home from school or daycare, did homework with them, fed their family dinner, and then came out after all that to support your host. So you're essentially saying to those valuable guests who did show up, we're really glad you're here, but you're not as important to us as those people who didn't bother to show up, so you can just wait for your stuff. Ouch, right? When I share this with a live audience, there's a sort of stunned gasp at that realization. And it's not generally something that anyone's ever considered before. It's sort of a sick thought. So the bottom line is, by closing your party the night of your party, you're honoring the guests who are there by getting them their products back as quickly as possible. Now, I think that should be all the reason that you need to start doing this. But I want to give you 4 more purely selfish reasons as well, not the least of which is this fact. If you're not doing this, you're absolutely leaving money on the table at every party that you walk out of without closing that night. And I'm going to prove it to you. So remember in the last video, I told you to have your host fill out the wish list prior to her party? Well, that means that she's been thinking about your products for a week or so, and she's getting more and more committed to the things that she wants, and she has a list. Now, a lot of times, after she's picked out her free and half-price items, she'll look at you and say, can I just buy the rest? And FYI, the answer to that is, sure, I'll let you do that. But if you wait even one day to close that party, things change for that host. She's not in the party mode anymore. She's sobered up, her electric bill came due, her husband said, no, you're not, and a lot of times she will take just the free items and even skip the half-price choices. So you're literally leaving money on the table by not taking advantage of that host's enthusiasm the night of her party. Plus, it's worth noting here that most of the time, and you know that this is true, you hold that party open so that she can get outside orders and she shows up with none or maybe one. That's because once that party's over for her, the party's over. Okay, she's done. She's not focused on your party anymore. Let me give you my top 4 reasons why closing your party the night of your party is so important. The first reason that this is a great idea is because it completely eliminates the stress of chasing down a host to get her to close. The truth is, even if you make an appointment to close before you leave her home, if you walk out the door without that party closed, you really have no idea about when it will actually close. I remember the nightmare of playing phone tag and having to drive to the opposite side of town to meet with a host to close that party. On average, you're going to spend an extra hour to an hour and a half out of your life and business closing a party once it's over. Second, you're going to start getting more guest orders if you close the party the night of the party. Because when a guest says, I need to check with my husband, I'll call you tomorrow and get you that order, they generally walk out the door and they never call. If you're closing that night, you can let them know that they need to order tonight and that they can just call and cancel their order within 24 hours if they change their mind, which they never do, just FYI, because once they walk out the door, they've forgotten about you and your products. It's the same reason they never call back to order, okay? So you're making the fact that they get amnesia as soon as they leave work for you instead of against you. Brilliant! It really works. The third reason this is going to increase your sales average is because if you're working with your host ahead of time, your host order is oftentimes going to be the largest order of the night. You heard that right. Check this out. You're going to tell your host at the host coaching that you want her to agree to write down everything that she sees that she thinks she might like, whether or not she thinks she's going to afford it or she's going to earn it. You want her to put it on the wish list, and you'll provide for her, and then make sure that she has lots of those wish lists, because your goal is for her to fill them up. That brings me to the fourth and final reason this is such a great idea. You're going to get more outside orders, okay? You're going to coach your host to get these before her party with this really simple language. Carolyn, we're going to close your party the night of your party so that I can honor the guests who show up that night by getting their products back to them as quickly as possible. No one's going to argue with that. So let's end today by talking about follow-up. This is a crucial component to all areas of your business, and your hosts are no exception. I know without a shadow of a doubt that effective follow-up preserves future business and prevents cancellations. That's because the more your host likes you and the more committed she is to you, as we've talked about before, the more she's going to want you to succeed. You create that commitment to you based on your professionalism and your commitment to her with the personal way that you follow up. Now, that being said, here's a scary statistic for you. The truth is that 1/3 of all hosts cancel or postpone, 1/3 are thinking about it, and 1/3 would never let someone down and not be over their word. So it's important to connect with that 2/3 that might cancel and eliminate those issues that lead them to cancel. I'm going to offer you a follow-up system that's very effective, and it's all about acknowledgement. That's where it begins and ends. This is a 2-step system that's beyond simple and can be accomplished in about 10 minutes total per host, so it's totally worth it. The first step in this system is what I call the MAC call. MAC stands for morning after call, and it's just what it sounds like. The morning after your new host books, you give her a call, just to thank her for booking and tell her how excited you are about her party. The second step in this process is to send a handwritten thank you note the very same day that you make the MAC call. Think about how you felt the last time you received a handwritten thank you note in the mail. It was a pretty great feeling, wasn't it? It told you that the person who sent that was thinking about you and cared about you. That's exactly how you want your new host to feel when she receives your card in the mail the next day. Let's talk about the typical new host scenario and how this 2-step system works. So she's just booked her party, she's driving home that night, and what's she thinking? Oh, what have I done? I can't believe I said yes to this party, I'm too busy, blah, blah, blah. It's called booking remorse, and it happens to at least 2/3 of all hosts, according to that earlier statistic, right? You have to strike within the next 48 hours with so much follow-up that there is no way that host is going to cancel. I used to joke that by the time they opened that thank you note, my hosts were thinking, this poor woman, I seriously must be her only host because she's certainly excited about this party. I can't cancel now, it would break her heart. That was exactly how I wanted every single one of my hosts to feel. That I was excited, committed, and I was counting on them. They didn't want to let me down. This is really amazing, and it's a simple system. Finally, just a quick word about confirmation calls. You know confirmation calls work in your life, and I bet your hairdresser and your dentist call you the day before every appointment that you have, right? That's because they understand that you're busy, and honestly, that their business is more important to them than it is to you. It's not always number one on your list, that appointment, so they give you a little nudge just to make sure that you're there, at least on the day before your appointment. Your host needs that same nudge. They're busy, and they can easily forget the host coaching appointment, or they can forget to call and remind their guests about their party. That's why this is part of your job, to remind them. So the day before your host coaching appointment, you're going to want to give that host a call and just confirm the time and place. Make it very light and fun. Let her know where the appointment is. If you're coaching her over the phone, you still want to make sure that you call the day before and confirm the time of that phone appointment. That's it for this week's training. You have 2 action steps for this week. First, Begin to set up your hosts to close their parties the night of their parties using the language I taught you. Also, make sure you have thank you notes handy so that you won't have to go out and buy them when it comes time to send your first thank you note. Next week, we're going to be covering sponsoring tools that you can use in addition to your sponsoring commercial during your parties to increase your sponsoring leads and also to begin to build your team more quickly. I can't wait to share this information with you, so I will look forward to seeing you next week.